In my opinion, the Outer Rim sieges have got to be one of the least well understood and under-discussed aspects of the Clone Wars, especially given the fact that the sieges play a prominent role in both the Clone Wars TV show and especially Revenge of the Sith. When discussing the Outer Rim sieges, a lot of people will say, well, it was the last campaign of the Clone Wars and sort of leave it at that. And while that is definitely true, there's a lot more to the Outer Rim sieges that really hints at the future of the galaxy, and which I think is really worth discussing. The best source I've found so far which discusses the Outer Rim sieges is, unsurprisingly, the Essential Guide to Warfare. The section on the Outer Rim sieges really highlights how terrifying it would have been as a citizen of the Republic. First of all, the CIS was somewhat of an unknown entity. Although the military buildup of the Republic, especially by the late Clone Wars, actually made it the more powerful faction, the CIS was just different. Of course, they were led by the terrifying General Grievous, who was designed to seem like a scary brute, a fall guy for the Confederacy, but there was also the fact that the CIS had strange droid armies. They were attacking across the galaxy, they were launching terror attacks even on prominent worlds like Coruscant, and they were just seen as being very, very difficult to stamp down. Part of the reason for this was because they used battle droids. Some sources actually suggest that the Confederacy purposefully limited their production of battle droids as to not completely overwhelm the Republic, and whether that's true or not, I'm not certain. But what is true is that there was the very real fear that hidden separatist facilities could be anywhere, pumping out droids ready to strike at systems. The Republic was also much larger than the Confederacy, which led to a situation very much like that between the Empire and the Rebellion. Although the Republic was significantly powerful, they also had a lot more targets that the CIS could strike at. As the Essential Guide to Warfare explains, the third year of the Clone Wars set up the conditions that would lead to the Outer Rim sieges. Separatist forces were largely driven out of the core and inner space and instead were made to fortify in the Outer Rim. While this indicated that the Clone Wars was moving in the Republic's favor, it also put Republic strategists in a difficult position. Do they push against the weakened but fortified CIS forces in the Outer Rim, knowing that the CIS will be able to counterattack against vulnerable Republic worlds? Or should the Republic shore up its defenses, but then also give the CIS time to rebuild and get new factories up and running? As we'll get to in a bit, it's probably no accident that the war came to this point. I think it was very clearly designed this way by Palpatine. But again, as the Essential Guide to Warfare explains, the Republic ended up largely doing both. Its military grew to the size where it could aggressively pursue the CIS in the Outer Rim while also making an effort to defend its own territory. And this is where the true horror of the Outer Rim sieges comes in. First of all, the Outer Rim sieges were made up of 6 Republic campaigns, dubbed, again according to the Essential Guide to Warfare, Megiddo, Sereno, Felucia, Siskine, Yogg-Dul, and Pre-Sitlan. Now, these theaters of war weren't simply the planets after which they were named. Rather, under each campaign, the Republic was trying to push back and eliminate CIS forces in the given area. This is where we saw some of the most violent action of the Clone Wars, including on heavily civilian worlds like on Kashyyyk and Megiddo. At this point, both the CIS and the Republic were desperate to secure victories, and these planets each held major strategic significance, whether because of their position in space, the presence of CIS factories, or whatever else. So the fighting here was absolutely brutal, and the Republic was also making deep incursions into CIS space. We also know that planetary forces and regiments were being used by the Republic to help press their advantage and overwhelm the CIS in all theaters of war. Another element of the brutality came from how the CIS would have counterattacked. I already mentioned that the Republic was worried that extending too aggressively into CIS space would leave their own planets vulnerable, and although we don't get a whole lot of detail about how the CIS counterattacked, it's almost certain that they did, especially where small droid squads could do a lot if able to run relatively free on a planet. We also know that the CIS made open attacks against the Republic. One of these was the Battle of Anaxes in Star Wars canon. Now, I actually do have a bit of an issue with this. Anaxes in Star Wars Legends was always a planet in the deep core. Star Wars canon changed it in the Clone Wars so that Anaxes was an Outer Rim planet, presumably because they needed it to be a part of the Outer Rim sieges. However, that was totally unnecessary, as again, we've been talking about throughout this video, the Outer Rim Sieges was a Republic effort against CIS space, and having the CIS counterattack in the core or deep core makes a lot of sense, especially given the fact that we know what came next. The Battle of Coruscant. The Battle of Coruscant occurred during the Outer Rim Sieges when Republic ships were largely far away from the core. For this reason, the CIS had, for a time at least, a free shot at the world and were able to kidnap Palpatine before returning forces stopped their retreat. I don't think the CIS had too many other attacks that were this level of daring, but they were definitely hitting worlds to try to pull the Republic forces off, and based on what sounds like a relatively ruthless onslaught of the Republic for months on end, it seems like they were probably willing to accept some losses in favor of stomping the CIS out and ending the war. That's just kind of the dark reality of the choices the Republic had to make. Engineering the Outer Rim Sieges, however, was also genius on Palpatine's part, for two reasons really. First of all, we have the Jedi. The Outer Rim Sieges took an already weakened Jedi Order and spread them across the galaxy far from Coruscant. Even Jedi Masters like Yoda, as we see in Revenge of the Sith, were forced into duty and were not able to be on Coruscant as Palpatine was doing Sith things. It also made the eventual execution of Order 66 just that much easier. But the real genius, and this is somewhat of a personal theory of mine, came from the fact that Palpatine purposefully moved the war into a position where the Republic really had no other option but to continue to militarize. That's one thing we see throughout the Clone Wars TV show. Palpatine always wants a larger military, he always wants more ships. This came to a point of arguably no return when we get to the Outer Rim Sieges. I'll just read this from the Essential Guide to Warfare. The Republic was in a grim trap. It could defend its world against separatist terror and incursions, given the core CIS territories time to crank out new warships and droid armies, or it could try to reclaim those territories while leaving Republic worlds vulnerable in the public perception. I just want to say, note the key words there, public perception. This puzzle was never solved. Instead, the Republic outgrew it, with its massive military buildup and coordination of existing forces finally allowing it to pursue both goals and begin to grind down the separatist war machine. And grind down is a good way to put it. The Outer Rim Sieges were bloody, they were long, and they saw civilians brought to the forefront of the Clone Wars. But that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Let me know what you thought and if there's anything you'd like to see me cover next. Until next time, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.